ho, ho, ho! And welcome to the Rounding Third podcast, a show so good that a Red Sox and a Yankees fan dance around the tree this year to deliver your Christmas present, which is a bonus episode. And I'm not just joined by my co-host, I am joined by your 2024 league champion, Coach Kevin. How you doing? Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Just a great time of year, Seeks. I know this is probably like your favorite time of year as well. Just a time for family, friends, Santa, the big guy. Everything's kind of come together here at the end of the year. So excited to bring this episode to the league.
Kevin, this was really your idea to drop a Christmas bonus episode. What was kind of your thought process behind doing so? Because I quickly got right behind it.
I think it was the weekend of your wedding, actually.
Yeah.
To those in the league that might not be aware, most of you probably are, but Seek's still glowing from the recent wedding, the honeymoon. Big congrats to him and Brooke. Better than any fantasy league win you could have. But I think we were just kind of one-on-oneing at the wedding, and
Yep.
I think we just wanted to give the league something to really kind of sink their teeth into and think about as we get into the spring. It's going to come up quick. And, football is obviously winding down. I know we all have some fantasy teams in that sport, but baseball, with how things went this past year in this league, I'm excited. And I think this is just going to be a great way for us to kind of retune things. And I think introduce some new stuff for this year that we're really excited to bring to the league.
Well said, Kevin. And he is right. The baseball season has not yet kicked off. We haven't even had any mock drafts yet. But it is that time
Speak
of
for
the
yourself.
year. It is that time of the year where, look, there's the hot stove. Free agents are moving around the league. I kind of burnt my hand on the hot stove and said, what better time to really collect ourselves before the year started? Because it was a really interesting year. I feel like it was a very involved year, and I'm really hopeful that everyone does in fact return. This is a bonus episode here. I think ultimately, before we can go forward, we have to pay our dues to the man that did in fact raise the trophy. His own team wasn't able to do so. I won't bring it up a lot, but Kevin, I'll be honest with you, you were the biggest believer in your team. I honestly was shocked when you had such an incredible run, but it was hard not to recognize the season that you had. I think just kind of sum up what it meant to beat your biggest rival, childhood rival, James, and ultimately what it feel like to hoist up the trophy.
Yeah, Seeks, a lot of emotions. I've obviously had a few months now to kind of let things sink in. It was really just kind of a Cinderella run. I thought, I was going to be there. You have to have that confidence throughout the year, but you kind of look at your team up and down, you know what you got. And I think I just caught fire at the right time. Hats off to James, everyone else that was in the playoffs. I think there were some tough battles all around. I know you mentioned, our team there in New York didn't get over the hump, just like everyone else in the league. Everyone's going to have their own shot at glory. So plenty of good stuff to look ahead to.
Absolutely. And the guy you mentioned, James, I think that was a guy that we all did think would be there. This is a guy that just always has a playoff presence. He then, in a year, maybe he shouldn't have been, found his way against you in the World Series. So I, too, want to tip my cap to James. I know he'll definitely be in the hunt this year. But what did that feel like? What was the dialogue after the trophy was raised? Did you guys have a good talk around the World Series? And are you guys in a good place right now?
Yeah, absolutely. James, nothing but a consummate professional when it came to taking the L. I think if anything, for a guy like Hot Ice, it just kind of, sets a fire under him to do even better the next time. Everyone's going to be locked in more to the draft this year. So I know he's going to starting to do some mocks soon, just like me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all love there, man.
I love it. I love it. And again, the dues were there for you. I think everyone in the league rightfully crowned you the champion. So tons of respect, and you're defending the crown this year, man. So, but before we can ultimately get into the mock drafts, we need to know where in fact things stand. I think by default we've had some some commissioner faux pas when it came to generating a draft order. The easiest way that I'm proposing we do it is how the season ended. That would be as followed: Dongs with the first pick in the draft, me in the second. I think that's kind of what it was last year. Air Yardon, followed by the commissioner himself, your brother, my brother Wooks, Billy Ward, Brando, James, and the King in the crown in the 10. You'd have the back-to-back picks, which would be great. So Kevin, right off the bat, how would you feel about kind of that draft order there?
I like having the 10 spot. Just to speak for myself personally, I like
Sure.
having the 10-11 turn. You get two solid guys right away. You kind of look at that back end of the draft. There's some dangerous guys that just always show up no matter what every single year. We already talked about James, but Billy, Brando, I mean, they're going to be in the hunt already.
Sure.
I do look at the top end of the draft though, including you and Dongs or Jordan. I mean, all of you guys have something to prove. I think you're
Mhm.
all going to really put some thought into, who's going to kind of be the anchor of your team. Like, which direction are you going to go in? We all know who like the big dogs are in
Sure.
terms of who's going to put up the stats and everything else. But it's really going to be how you're going to set the tone in terms of, what everything else is going to look like falling into place later on in the draft. I mean, the commish, I think he might have the biggest chip on his shoulder. I think he's got maybe the most to prove out of anyone.
It's a cleanup guy.
Cleanup
Um,
guy.
and again, something that I'm thinking to myself here, we haven't had anything set in stone, but do we propose having keepers? A pitcher and a position player, just one player altogether. I don't know if that's really a thing in the baseball realm, unless you have the same guys that are coming back every year, which I think we've relatively cemented at this point. So wanted to get your thoughts on it. I'm kind of 50-50 myself, where I could be swayed either way. It definitely would come to a vote. But what are your thoughts on having keepers?
I do think it is something fun to kind of keep the continuity, you know what I mean? And kind of keep an identity going from year to year. It could be something where, you get to keep one guy similar to, how we're doing it in our football league.
Sure.
You don't get to keep them the next year. I like the idea personally. I mean, if I
Sure.
had a vote, I would say let's do it. But, we can leave it out to the league. When everyone watches this on Christmas, if you want to just put it into the group chat, what you
Yeah.
think, we can kind of, you know what I mean, look in January and February if that's something we want to lock in.
Sure. Yeah, and I know not everyone is in our fantasy football league, so kind of the idea behind it would be that you get to keep a guy, but you only get to keep him for 1 year. And I do think that it does have a buy-in. It does make you draft a little bit differently. And again, if you're having a bad year and you have a player, maybe you trade for him, or maybe, it wasn't a playoff year, but you have someone that you can take with you next year, definitely changes how you draft. So I'm kind of now leading that way, and it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah.
You did bring him up, though. You did bring him up. Our commissioner and I have a punishment in store for you. I had to go back with you the other day. It's episode 7, and I think I agreed upon doing the punishment with him. As a man of my word,
Yeah.
you beat the ever living out of me last week. Like I think I used my 10 ads on Friday, and then I was like, I'm losing this. I did the calculator. This is how much I knew I wasn't going to come back.
Were you a little embarrassed?
Embarrassed. Absolutely. Those chairs in the side of hotels I was sitting in watching. But as a man of my word, we did talk about this. You and I had some dialogue today, and we agreed on our punishment.
Yes. We're going to do the 999 challenge, except
Mhm.
because I feel like that's physically impossible for one person to do. Seeks and I are doing it together. We're going to do it for your entertainment. We're going to make it so you guys can watch.
He had such a bad year. He had such a bad year. You kind of called to light. It is the 999 challenge, and it's a punishment where you have to go to a baseball game and in 9 innings, as one person, finish 9 beers and 9 hot dogs. I had a conversation with our commissioner. I said, "Hey, let's make it interesting." Although I didn't come in last place, I'm going to kind of help and shoulder him, where we'll debut something before the season starts. Maybe even like opening day. We're still kind of working out the kinks there. We want to kind of instill a punishment as we have keepers, as this is more of a cemented group. Kevin, kind of talk me through your thought process there of punishments and kind of bring to light what we were talking about yesterday.
Obviously, no one likes to come in last place, but I think it's just one of those, you know what I mean, extra things that puts a little more on the line and, really makes you pay a little more attention on a week to week basis and be on the waiver wire a little bit more. I think that everyone that's in this league wants to be in this league. And I think that at the end of the day, it's going to be something that everyone agrees on anyways in terms of the nature of the punishment. I think it's something that's here to stay.
And again, I don't think we have to go to I'd love to get more tattoos, but we don't have to go to the severity of going to your local high school, taking the SATs, but
no SATs.
No SATs. It would be fun to have something that's reoccurring every year. Why I put Billy Ward in the back seat. Billy Ward, I see you. He ducked out. He was supposed to do for our football. It's not about our football. We keep referencing it, but he didn't do his punishment. He was supposed to do the waffle challenge. So you had said something that's really interesting. If you don't do the punishment, you're out of the league. So I think once we cement something, I think we actually hold our league members to the fire, and you should be punished if you come in 10th.
Yeah, we love you, Billy. Though we're not firing any shots out there. But like we said, it's not going to be like anything too crazy. So we'll all take a vote on that as well.
Yeah, I think what we were going to work through was between the two of us do 9 total hot dogs, 9 total beers in like 9 minutes, and just like make it either like more of a contest type thing. We're still working through what it looks like, but we will endure the punishment, and it obviously will be content for the league members here. So not looking forward to it, but you guys should be.
I love it.
And again, we got to talk about the off season here, and that's what got me really excited. I feel like last year and years before, I was kind of so-so, not so-do, but so-so on players. I didn't know who's in the zoo, but you got some big names. I kind of got back into baseball, and it might have been because of the podcast, having fun with you. This was a crazy offseason, man, for your team, for my team. You guys had quite the run, and obviously we both had kind of bids in for Juan Soto. He was the crown jewel of the offseason. I kind of want you to talk through what your feelings were towards Juan Soto as it did enter free agency here, and then kind of expand upon how you feel about your team because you guys have made some moves.
It became pretty apparent, once free agency opened and a lot of stories were kind of floating out there. It seemed like the Yankees were the underdog in terms of the fight for Soto. Honestly, just as a Yankee fan, and I think the other Yankee fans here would agree, long term, it's probably the smart thing not to lock yourself into a guy for that long, not knowing a lot of the things that are going to happen. You can take what you did, what you could have done with that total contract and basically get 2, 3, 4 guys to kind of fill a lot of the gaps that I think were some of the main reasons why he didn't get over the hump this past year. So congrats to Soto on making his future great-great-great-grandson rich. But Max Fried, what a stud. Welcome to the Bronx. Yeah. There's a lot to be said. Cody Bellinger. I mean, there's going to be new guys, fresh blood coming in that I think it's going to create this new identity where all these guys, similar to the commish, they're going to have chips on their shoulders. But I don't think that anyone's going to debate that the Yankees are going to be the top team in New York again next year, the next few years. So that's how I feel.
Look, and with Soto, it's weird to say because that you felt you were the underdog. I kind of felt like we had a better shot at Soto than you did. I don't know if he looked at himself as being the man, like if he saw Aaron Judge as like whatever it was. I was like, let's get Soto. I'm almost happier that he went to the Mets, got out of our division there. And again, as a Red Sox fan, we are now getting back into more exciting times. We had some really rainy days for a couple of seasons now, not spending. And again, last place finishes, bottom of the division, making a move for Garrett Crochet, a young stud, Cy Young level pitcher. Got the juices. He's a stud. Lefty, got the juices flowing for me again. A lot of our top prospects will be making their debut or starting to do so. We'll have some Rookie of the Year candidates for short Fenway Park. And I think it's an unpainted canvas. I mean, we only really traded for someone. My prediction, knock on wood, that after Christmas, we do sign Alex Bregman or we make a trade for.
You can have
Um,
it.
I know you guys hate him. I know you guys hate him. He's just such a winner. And like if he goes to us, if he goes to Detroit, all the love to Bregman. I just think he's a winner. He's an absolute winner.
I think the big, just to kind of like piggyback off what you're saying, I think that one of the biggest things that like, especially people like, guys like you and I who like kind of grew up in that golden era of like
Hmm.
Yankee Red Sox, like rivalry. I don't think anything would be better than to get back to that point, go out there, have a little brawl. You know what I mean? You want to be like a Yankee fan, like at Yankee Stadium,
Yeah.
like when the Red Sox come into town, like feeling like there's like blood on the line. Like there's nothing better in sports, in my opinion, than baseball. I think it's trending up again. I think like
Sure.
a lot of more people are paying attention. I think there's so many like just big profile guys that are kind
Yeah.
of like taking over, you know what I mean, the league, and it's in good hands. So I think nothing could be better than the Red Sox to get better, just to make that rivalry kind of like spark again. So
I don't disagree.
I'm all for free agents coming over to the AL East. I don't think anyone wants to go to Toronto, but I think in the next 5-10 years we're gonna see that rivalry renew.
From your lips to John Henry's ears, brother, I am very excited for baseball this year. I hope that you and I probably watch some games together this year. So yeah, let's reinstill that rivalry and said it right that time. And before we get into the rivalry, we have to then get into the top Christmas movies. It is Christmas today. I had asked you to do a blind ranking. We have folks that love the blind rankings, and I don't know what the list is going to be. I know you're going to strategically try and place things in different places, but we're going to do a top 5 Christmas movies.
Yeah, so I kind of thought long and hard about this. There's a couple I left out on purpose.
Yeah.
One would be Die Hard. I really don't care for that whole debate.
Yeah.
It's just like a
Is
non
it
thing for
is it a
me.
Christmas movie?
No, it's not a Christmas
No?
movie. No, it's not a Christmas movie.
Okay.
I also left out the Grinch, which I know is kind of your background, but I know your strong feelings towards it. I
Yeah.
just think it'd be like, you know what I mean? Uh,
Boring. Yeah, I'm a
yeah.
Grinch guy. Yeah.
Um,
Smart.
but let's just jump right into it.
Sure.
First one I'm gonna say is A Christmas Story.
Okay. Christmas Story.
It's a
OG.
classic.
It's a classic. Yeah, and I think it's really on the list because it is a classic. I think that there has been better movies that have been made. I'll watch it if it's on, but I kind of tune out and I resort to being on my phone. I think time hasn't really aged it well. I'm gonna throw it in the 5 spot. No disrespect, but disrespect.
That's fair. I
Yeah,
kind of share your same sentiment. It's just one of those that's always on, and
sure.
you could take it, you could leave it. Next one I'm gonna throw in there is Home Alone 2.
Oh,
Home Alone
two.
2. Home Alone 2.
Okay. He's in New York. Trump's in it. Uh,
Down the hall to the left.
Down the hall to the left. I think Home Alone 2 rightfully belongs in the 2 because it's like such a good movie. Brought back a lot of the heavy hitters in the cast. Yeah, they did forget him again. Home Alone 2, give me a 2.
I think they took like, especially, you know what I mean, towards the end with just all the shenanigans he pulls with Marvin Harry. They just take everything, just, you know what I mean, to a next level in terms of just some of the slapstick comedy. And
Yeah.
I just love the overall scenes, the vibe, you know what I mean? New York, early 90s, just like what can beat it? So I think
It
it's
was
a
an
good
away
spot for it.
game. It was an away game
Yeah.
from McAllister too, man. Pigeon Lady with the apple. Like she assisted all of that. That's a solid 2.
Gonna throw in something a little more recent.
Sure.
Elf.
All right. I am of the people that think it is an overrated. I'm throwing it right at 4. I wish I could have put it in the 5.
I
I
agree,
I
man.
I do like Will Ferrell. Is it Zoe Deschanel? Is it she's the lead
Yeah.
actress there? She's cute. Um, she has a nice little singing part, but the deadbeat dad, man, deadbeat dad, Buddy the
James
Elf.
Caan.
James Caan, deadbeat dad, and again, Will Ferrell's what an atrocious thing to have with the spaghetti. I looked the other way. It wasn't as funny as I would have wanted it to be. It's a 4. It's a
It's
stretch
a
4.
four.
It's a stretch 4.
Another thing we can agree on.
Sure.
Then I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. I'm gonna say the Santa Claus.
All right. I'm putting Santa Claus. Tim Allen at 1. It is such a rewatchable movie
It
where
is. It
no
is.
matter what, Popo Gijo. But that is one of my favorite movies. It's an unbelievable movie. That's a 1. That's a 1.
Which makes your third Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It's
I'm
a
fine with
classic.
that. I'm fine with that.
Nothing
Yeah.
more classic than that, but
Sure.
something you always got to fit it in at least once a year, in my opinion.
I will tell you as a child, the abominable snowman scared the bejeebas out of me.
Oh yeah,
And it was like the cut for commercial after it starts to pan up to him and he's like behind the mountain. That's a no for me, dog. That's a no for me.
I've still been trying to find a dentist named Herbie, but he's out there somewhere.
He's out there somewhere. I think that's an okay list in my book.
Yeah, nothing I would have changed.
Nothing at all. So again, Kevin, this was a pleasure to get on the mic and again talk through the offseason. I think you rightfully deserve your flowers, man. You were the defending champ. The commissioner will likely have a lot of action items stemmed from this media segment here. There's a lot to look at with the draft order, the keepers, the punishments. But what an enjoyable episode, man. I appreciate you hopping on.
Absolutely. And just so the league knows, we're probably once, spring training kind of runs around, and I think as a follow up to a lot of things we talked about, I think we're going to hop on again, even if it's just for a quick powwow before the season really gets into gear. So Merry Christmas, Mike. Always great to hop on here. Hope everyone else has a great Christmas. And we'll see y'all in 2025.
For sure, man. And I'm very joyful for this podcast. I think it's a nice way to collect a wonderful group of people. That feels like more of a family than any fantasy league. So again, to echo what Kevin's saying, Merry Christmas to everybody that is watching the episode. We will have kind of a layout for next year of like, this is when we'll be dropping episodes. We were kind of just like finding our feet last year, but now that we have some experience here, we'll be having a very productive and hopefully enjoyable league for all, man. So happy New Year to everybody. We'll see you all next year. And Kevin, it's great seeing you, man.
You as well. Are we counting down, or
I was hoping you said
are we
it.
counting the reindeer?
I think we let's work on our outro in the off season. So I'll let you kick things off.
Strike 1.
Strike 2.
Strike 3. We're out.
That's the best way to end the show. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Popo Gijo.